Welcome. Another episode of the Johnny and Gene Show. Johnny Alite, Gene Borrello, myself, Felix Amin. So this will be fun. This is just us three, and we're gonna, this show is about truly. It's a couple different things. Talking everything mob related because they were in the life. I don't know anything about that, but I know that for people like me who weren't, it's just interesting. Period.
Right.
And then mostly also their message and what they're trying to promote with this show is to inform people about what it was like, one, but also for a purpose of, so people don't get into it. So they see how, A, kind of scary it is, B, the trouble you get into, the time in jail you spend, how it's not worth it, there's no loyalty. So, I guess the general message that, we're trying to get across is, informative, but also how to keep kids away from it. So, we're going to get into a lot of different things. I think first what's interesting for me, right, as someone who doesn't know anything really about this life, and, Gene just got out way more recently than John, but, is how do you refrain from going back into that life, right? And I know that's hard because when you get out, they don't help you. They don't help you integrate into society. You got to find a job. You don't want to, Gene's on a short leash. You do anything and you go back for life. So for you, we'll start with Gene. How do you on a daily basis, refrain from either anger, anything violence related? If someone does you wrong, maybe before you were gonna go hurt them, now you can't. What's that been like?
It's hard, but like I said, when I do get mad, because it's funny now, because me and him became very close, I call him up because I'd be like, "Yo, John, listen." He'd be like, "Listen, don't let them set you up. Don't let them get you out of it." He'll explain to me, and then it makes sense to me what they're doing. Nobody's really gonna do anything. Nowadays it's washed up. If this was the '80s, I'd probably be in witness protection. Because you'd be dead. You couldn't walk the streets like that. But nowadays it's just so watered down a joke that what they'll do is they'll try to get you in trouble other ways. You know what I mean? Bring you out of your character. Try to do something. Try to get you basically violated, put back in jail, and they'll say, "Oh, we got him in jail. We won," which is a rat move. The same thing they're against, they're doing. So basically now I just gotta really sit back, and what I do is I relax now, and I really just try not to let anything bother me anymore.
And how does, from like a legal standpoint, you have you're on parole? You have
right.
So, you have to check in with people? Yeah,
so my probation officer, he'll call me every once in a while and, check in with me, and it's like regular parole basically. But, like I said, when I pled out, I already had told the story. You are under your guidelines. So 15 to life guideline, that's what I pled out to, a bunch of charges. And if you do catch another charge, you go back in front of your federal judge. You go back in front of him. And he might not be so friendly to you this time, where they gave you another chance and now you're just the same person. Mind you, I'm young. My career was short-lived because I was so wild for my time, they wanted me off the street. It was either you're going to do this or you're going to die in jail. We don't want you kind around out. Bad guys and good guys were calling up the cops on me. So it's just like, you got your second chance, you mess it up, you're gone. That's basically, and it'll humble you. I want to live the rest of my life in peace. And do you,
because I've had both of you individually on my personal show, but, I think John was talking to me more about like this PTSD, and I think it might have been maybe therapy or different things of managing that kind of, those emotions. For you, do they help? Do they provide therapists? Do they, like, how's that, to talk about it?
They do right now. Obviously, the whole situation going on, we can't, but they were putting me with therapists, and I seen it like twice, but then after that, this whole thing happened, so I really couldn't.
Do you feel like that stuff is helpful? For other people that are getting out, would you recommend that?
Right, truthfully, and my whole thing is I really do have chemical imbalances, so it's not like I'm nuts, but I have chemical imbalances. I'm ADD, ADHD, I was diagnosed bipolar when I was young, bad mood swings, so I have that. I was supposed to be on medication my whole life, I just refused to take it. So that was also a problem that I had.
And do they, try to make you take it now? Do you ever fear that because you have, ADD, ADHD, or bipolar, that it, one slip up could get the worst of you?
Right. Like I said, I never thought before I did anything. I just did it. Like he was saying, when they told me to do something, I just did it. Same here. I just did it. I didn't have no consequence. I was just like I just go. You know what I mean? So now I have to change that completely, It's just...
Do you feel like you're able to do it? It's hard to ask someone to completely change in a few months.
Like I said, I'm not going to bullcrap anybody. I just don't want to... I also don't want to die in jail. It's also over my head. So, I want to change, be a better person, and I also don't want to sit and rot in a cell for the rest of my life.
Right. And for you, John, different experience, different life. What are ways in which, you manage your emotions and stuff like that to you know, that's a life from the past. And you, I mean, you know, people know you and your past, it was violent, whatever, but you know, on a daily basis, how do you survive, and you know, when you have an issue with someone, to not resort to violence as you used to?
Well, you know, first off, I got a friend of mine is from Puerto Rico, was a serious killer. He got out of jail, beat some cases, and he wanted to change his life, and guys were agitating him, and he killed all 3 guys that were agitating him, and he's back in jail doing life. So I look at and I see guys like that, and I exercise my brain the way I exercise my mind. So I'll never forget, because he calls me. Boo Boo was calling me when he was home, when he was getting mad, and then he calls me now from prison. And I feel bad for him, because that you got to learn to exercise your brain the way your mind. And Will Smith, I don't know for people that follow, he's an actor, right? But he says some intelligent things for people that know him. And, you know, I happen to be a Will Smith fan, so I was watching. One of the things he said is, if you're going to look in a broken mirror, you're going to see something that's distorted, right? So you have to look at yourself and say, I don't care what other people are saying. I need to control me. And that's part of therapy, and that's part of exercising. And what I do is, and part of that therapy over the years was, one of the most important things is, as I became an advocate for so many kids from inner cities, from all over, that call me and depend on me, I know I would be letting down a lot of people if I screw up. And so that's one of the things that stops me. And the other thing is your initial reaction. I lose my temper still, like I've always done, but I don't react the same way. I control my reaction. And I know if you let somebody in a room with me, and guys that know me, they won't talk so tough like that if they didn't know my position. I got to just always remember that. I said, they're talking this way because they think that that's not going to happen. But unfortunately for some of those guys, there's guys like Boo Boo, even though he ruined his life, those guys that kept agitating him lost their life also. I don't want to be another Boo Boo, and I don't want to be those guys that agitate me. So, you know, I learn as I keep getting older to control myself, and I work at it every day, like an alcoholic does.
Do you feel like, you talk about therapy, I mean, I don't know how often you do or did it. What was it about therapy that helped you? I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that get out and don't have people to talk to, don't do therapy. Do you recommend it as a way to, you know, manage your anger? Has that worked for you?
Yeah, well, I talked the example because we'll talk about Gene and his partners with me here. And, you know, the thing about therapy is it teaches me not to be insecure. It teaches me to know who I am, get rid of the ego. And like I told Gene, these aren't guys that are on the street that agitate you. Are usually guys that are not capable of anything. They're just guys that'll run their mouth, and they're not killers, obviously. And, you know, if you're going to take it to that level, I would say, Gene, be careful, because these guys might kill you. But that's not the case. They're going to, at best, take 7 or 8 guys and try to jump you. But I don't think they think it out, because if they do that, they got to say to themselves, well, how's this going to end then? If I do that to me, say, how's this going to end? Do I got to wait for this guy to come kill me? Because you don't know where somebody's temperament's going to go if that's what's inbred in them, right, to be violent. So you got to really think it out and be educated. And you know, a good thing on my end is age, right? As you keep getting older, you get smarter, and you also, you're not insecure, your ego's gone. And, you know, I use Mike Tyson because another guy I really like. And you can't be champ forever. You know, I had that reign for a while, and I got to understand, listen, those days are over. Let them talk. Who cares? Laugh it off, and get yourself to the bank, make money, go travel, and enjoy life, right? And that's the message I give young kids.
And I think it's interesting you talk about, you know, insecurity, because people would look at someone like you and be like, he's insecure. What are you talking about? When you mean insecurity, what does that mean for you, and how does, like, ego play into that?
Well, because anybody knows if you go in a room with a tiger, the tiger's going to kill you, right? So, you know, they could talk all that nonsense about me, especially if they're younger, but the guys my old generation, they know what I was. So they know I was a straight, you know, gangster, killer, whatever word you want to use, you know, enforcer, but I was very violent, way past any average guy or any guy that was on the street. You got to remember, most guys on the street live off a reputation to use a gun once or twice. If they're really wild, 3 times. I didn't stop shooting that gun. I mean, you know, everybody's always asking those stupid numbers. To me, don't mean anything. I said it before. I don't have a computer. The only thing I can say is in the trials they accused me of shooting 60 people, and I said that's an exaggerated number. And I've always said the same thing, probably around 40, and I've shot off names and places over and over again, not just with a gun, with a bat, because people talk about, well, you killed this guy. I mean, the first guy I actually killed was with a baseball bat. And I wasn't charged with the murder and, you know, whatever. I'm not the prosecutor, so I don't know how exactly that works. But people that know me know how violent I could be. And that violence only hurts myself. It only kills me if I'm ever violent again.
Now, do you guys, I mean, you know, question for both of you is fear of going to jail. And you have different perspectives. I think it's interesting because you're young and you just got out, so you see, like, you know, I could have 40, 50 years of life ahead of me.
Right.
That's kind of scary. And then for you, John, I mean, now you're older, kids, you know, is it a different fear of going to jail? Is there really a fear of going to jail, or fear of death? I mean, what's that like in for the both of you?
You want me to answer? I don't think I have fear of going back to jail at all, or even dying in jail, to be honest with you. My change of heart in this life was I had 2 crime families, Bonanno family and the Gambino family. The bosses down were wearing wires and testifying and going to meet the government. So I believed in a life, being Albanian, that the Italians in this life couldn't be loyal to. And I said to myself when I threw the towel in, and I tell people all the time, get the paperwork and see how many bosses from both families gave me up, along with the underlings. You expect the underlings to give you up. So when I threw the towels in after 2 major families became cooperators, and then I said to myself, I'm loyal to nonsense. And I changed my life and kept advocating for kids, and I won't stop advocating kids because I don't want them to believe in what I believed in and ruin your life. So it's not really fear of jail. It's fear of going to jail for the wrong thing. So like any parent, I use as an example, you have parents, his parents, anybody's parents in the room. We all protect our families and our kids, and we'll do anything for them. So I don't think that'll ever change for any human being that loves their family and their children. So I don't think it's a fear of jail. I think it's the fear of not living the right life correctly, and I want to live it the right way. I want my legacy to be this, exactly what I'm doing, helping kids survive, getting involved with kids that have the same problem I had or Gene had, and save their lives. Man, it's really a good feeling to know you're saving some kids' lives that call me on a constant basis, all their parents.
You know, for me, like, I got so bitter towards the life because Ronnie G, I was super tight with him. I just didn't work for him. I was hanging out with him. He didn't even have guys around him. He didn't want people around him. Me and him was super tight. And when he turned on me and when he did with me, it kind of like said, wow, this is what I look up to. This guy did this to me. Like, he's supposed to be my right-hand man. I do everything for this guy. I would do anything for him. He knows that. On a call, he just say, Gene, go do this. It's done. I didn't hesitate. I just did it. And when he basically started turning on me and pushing me away and do what he did to me, I got bitter. It made me so bitter towards everybody. And then I had to deal with his Uncle Psycho for 3 years. And that was no ride in the park. This guy's a raving lunatic. And I had to put up with that crap because they were told that's what you have to do. So you become bitter. These are the people you look up to, and look what they're doing. They turn on me. I did all this stuff for them.
Let me interrupt you something. I'm gonna, and I don't like to interrupt you, but one of the things he's bitter about, and nobody talked about, but I do because he had this conversation. His boss, and I don't like to use that word, but Ronnie, actually asked him to shoot at a woman. I mean, and it disgusted him because it's something that's bothered him ever since.
And I did it.
So when people are talking about loyalties of this life, he was so loyal that he went against every grain of his body to shoot at a woman because he was asked to.
Yeah.
And this is why I don't like the life, because people don't see this part. Where's the honor at shooting at a woman? You know, where's the honor at a girl, that, and I won't use her last name, that the cousins and uncles, and he claimed that he was involved with shooting a girl. There's no honor in shooting a girl. I mean, I don't even know what anybody's talking about.
Right.
But to me, it's disgusting. It's laughable. It ain't no tough guy that does that.
Right.
So he done those things for the wrong reasons. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
On top of it, in the middle of ongoing traffic on Cross Bay Boulevard, had me fire into a car at a lady and 2 other people because we thought somebody was in there. I said, there's a woman in there. He goes, shoot into the car. And I put 6 shots into the car. I almost killed everybody in the car. The girl seen me. She was crying. You almost killed me, bullets to her headrest, everything. And I says, you know, you hanging out with my enemy. That's the life I'm living. I was so loyal to this guy that he could have told me to kill anyone. I would have did it. And that's how loyal I was to him. And he turned on me. He made me so bitter. And when I was sitting there, he just put a hatred in me, a hate in my heart that I can't describe.
Was it also a hatred for yourself? I mean, explain what you felt.
I felt so used, you know, because I always thought, oh, this is my guy, you know, because he wouldn't talk to nobody. When he came home, he would only deal with me. So everybody used to, like, a lot of people did kiss his ass for his time. He was the guy because, like you said, there was nobody around, you know, he was the guy. So I was his right-hand man, did all his work, all his dirt, and everybody knew I was next in line, and I was hanging out with him every day, and he kind of, like, resented me for that. I thought he loved me for that, but he didn't. He actually started, like, pushing me away and turning on me and used anything he could to basically get rid of me now. And I mean, I took care of everything. He was in jail. He couldn't collect a dollar. I made sure all his money was collected. I took care of his kids. His kids were like my family. I lived with them, basically. I ate with their house every day. I was like a real, not just, oh, I work for him, meet me here at this time. It was, we were good friends. And he was a lot older than me. That should tell you right away. He's got 14 years on me. What's he got at me, a young kid hanging out? Because I'm an asset to him, you know what I mean? I thought it was more than that, and it wasn't. He basically just...
What Gene doesn't understand than other kids is they won't ask their own child to do that, right? So how can they really love you or like you? If they're asking you to do things at your age, basically the same age as his kids. So they're asking you to do something that they won't do themselves and they won't have their own child to do. So because you believe in this life, you're delusional enough to think that somebody really cares about you. But I would never ask my sons to do anything like that. I never asked my sons to ever step their foot in the street. Actually, if my sons step in the street, I'll beat up my sons. Then you'll see me get violent again. And, well, I don't know if I could beat my kids up anymore, but
Yeah,
I would have to hit them with something. But the point is I don't want my kids in the street because I love my kids. And any father, any street guy, and I've said this, any baseball player, any actor, any ball player, any street guy, if they love their kid, they don't want to give their kid a gun and a bag of junk to sell on the street. That's just reality of the life. So when someone else does that, whether it was me in the past or whether it was his guy, when we do that, actually we don't care about those kids. We only care about ourselves and making money. And that's the truth about it. A lot of things I did in the past is no different than his guy he was working for. I didn't never hurt any girls or anything, but I used kids to do a lot of work with me. And you got to be honest. For me to help other kids, I got to tell them the truth. Listen, I wasn't the greatest guy in the world, obviously. I was hurting people, killing people left and right, shooting people. And now I have a different life for almost 10 years where I'm helping kids. So, you know, it's which one do you want? I want this one where I'm helping kids.
Now, you were kind of talking about this idea of like loyalty and being used. And I think for, you know, for people like me who just think that everything is so interesting, right? Whether you agree,
Right.
whether they like you guys or hate you
Right.
guys, whatever you want to say about the Mafia, it's just interesting. That's why so many movies have been made. Go ahead.
Felix, I want to say something. Also, what bothered me so much is that I was so loyal to him that when he was in jail, I had Bronx Genovese guys wanted me. Gambino guys, his my friend I was on last week, Hootie, his crew wanted me. He said, come over here, come with us, leave that guy. Everybody hates him. I said, no, I'm not leaving him. That's my guy. And then he comes home and does me dirty. And that's what bothered me even more. I turned down so many opportunities, and I wouldn't do that to him. I said, I'm not going to take a button somewhere else just because I want it. I want to be with my people that I came with, and this is my guy. I'm staying with him. And he did me wrong. And that's why I put such a bitter I can't describe it to you, you know?
But do you, like, because of stories like that and so many others I can imagine, this idea of loyalty, do you guys now, you know, is it hard for you to trust people? I mean, do you... You know, I think this idea of loyalty in general is interesting, but then when you talk about mob and money and all that, I mean, how is that transition now? Do you feel like this idea of trust issues is prominent in your lives? I mean, how do you guys gauge if I can trust someone or not now?
Let me tell you something. I have two sisters I have no relationship over because they both live in, one lives in a $2 million house, the other one lives in a $600,000 house, and I have a father that you all know that's sick. And I'm trying to bring them home to my house, not theirs. And I asked for financial help to help my father. I can't get loyalty out of two sisters for their own father and have the nerve to say we can't afford $1,000 each a month. So that's like saying we don't love our father for $1,000. If you don't have $1,000, say one's a school teacher, she's making $50,000 a year. Just say if they cut her pay to 40, she's going to survive with that 40. Correct? So why can't you make the sacrifice for your father's life and keep him in safety They chose not to. They put him in a nursing home where he ended up getting COVID, came home, came back out of the nursing home, out of the hospital, put him back in the same nursing home to get even more sick, almost died. Now he's lingering, and hopefully he survives. But these are sisters. This is not the mob. You imagine this is a sister that goes to a country club and maybe she spends $50,000 a year, one sister on a country club. She lives in a $2 million estate. The other sister's living well. And if she isn't living great, but she's living good in a $500,000-$600,000 house, drives brand new cars, throwing weddings for her daughter in the Bahamas. But your dad's life is not worth $1,000 a month. This is the perfect example of saying to the mob world, how can we expect loyalty when you can't get it from your own family? And I'm not the only family like this. There's other families all over like this. So what's this nonsense belief of loyalty in something else? When my own father can't get loyalty out of his daughters, he's not worth that much. They'd rather see him suffer and die or live like a dog. I mean, nobody can explain that. I'd love to have them. We'd love to invite them so we can converse about what they say and relate it to the Mafia. Because it would be interesting psychologically to see why do people never... And the same sister, one of them, has borrowed crazy money off of me her whole life. $125,000 for a business. Anytime she was in money trouble, $30,000 down payments on houses. I bought all kinds of money. I can't even get into it. But not the loyalty enough to love their father, have the audacity not to. So how am I going to expect that from a mob guy? Can I, I don't think anybody can answer that.
And for you, do you feel like now that you're out, is it harder for you to trust people? How do you go about assessing if I'm going to trust?
That was always my problem. I trust too easy. That's been my downfall. I trust people I had no business trusting. That's always, I always let my guard down because I always give people a chance, and it turns around, they bite me, ends up hurting me,
And how do you, feel like you're gonna? How do you improve on that now?
It's hard to, you can never really know someone's true. It's very hard. You have to, take your chances, I guess. I have good friends now. He's one of my good friends now. I have a few good circle people that it's actually, you meet, it's crazy that later on in your life, people I grew up with, they're all my best friends. They're not, certain of my best friends that ain't even street guys, they're not around no more, but now I got better friends now, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm good, I'm happy where I am. Are
there, do you guys still have friends that also are in the life that now aren't? I mean, do they have similar experiences to you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, is there a certain level of trauma that you guys all share or ever talk about? Or is that like a subject of conversation?
What bothers me is that people pick and choose, because if you want to say I'm a high profile cooperator, so they'll be like, oh, I can't talk to him, but they'll go talk to a guy that cooperated, but he's not high profile, so they'll still deal with him. And he'll live in the neighborhood, which I do too, I don't care, but it's like they'll deal with him. He's still good because he didn't tell on big guys, but because I told on Vinny and Ronnie, they're these big guys, I'm no good no more. So it's so stupid the way they operate right now. It doesn't even make any sense, to be honest with you. So, I don't know.
Now, there's there's so much that we'll go into over the course of this show, but we kind of talked about this as one of the questions that we wanted to get into on this episode too, is talking about jail and those experiences. And I think everyone always wants to know what it was like, yada yada, but I'm just gonna go straight into it. Do you guys each have a worst jail story? I mean, you guys both spent time, and John, I know you from our past conversations been in some really bad places, some bad prisons. So will you talk maybe if you guys have a worst jail story?
I talk a lot in my first book, Gotti's Rules. We talked that George Anastasia wrote. We talked about an incident in Brazil in Ari Franco jail. But I'm going to go outside that because people already heard about that, know about that. After I left Ari Franco, they transferred me to another penitentiary. I was the first inmate never charged with a crime in their country that was sent to a major penitentiary called Bangu 2. And Bangu 2 is one of the roughest prisons also throughout that country or any country. And when I first get picked up by BOP, it's military police. They put me in a box, and you can't really move in those boxes the way they transport you. I mean, literally, there's no movement for your legs, for your arms. It's about 120 degrees in a box. And they moved me with 2 carloads of military police. So I guess about 8 guys. And as I'm going, they stop off, and they're trying to see if I could still give them money for an escape route. and the one military cop I'm pretty friendly with, and his name's Marco, and they're trying to get me to pay him a couple $100,000. They're going to fake a shootout and release me. I mean, that's the story. The only reason why I would trust it is because one of them was pretty close to me. Otherwise, I think maybe they'll let me out and then shoot me and not take it. But they tell me if I don't, I couldn't get to the money to them that fast. My lawyer wasn't able to, and we try to do it on a because they're on a timetable to get me. But when they bring me to Bangu 2, they warn me, John, you're going to have real trouble here. The ward knows, and they're blaming you for the riot just happened in Ari Franco. When I left, 16 guys got shot, and the prison was in an upheaval, and they blame me as starting that riot. So when I get into the next jail, they strip me down. They bring me down to the dungeons. There's probably ankle-deep water in the solitary confinement. You shit in a hole, and there's no blankets. There's no nothing. It's concrete. It's a step down, a step up from where you shit. And they tie me up from my legs to my back of my hands, and I get a beaten naked at the gates of solitary confinement, and in the water, and no light. Actually, the light was out, so there's only a light that comes down from down the hall somewhere. So people that, I don't know if anybody watched some of these shows with Argentina when they had the wars and different things that were going on with the country. It was one of the worst things, because I know if they wanted to kill me, they kill me. And I think the only thing that saved me from that beating, I mean, I got a bad beating, of not getting killed or broken bones or split open head, is I was an American. They would have to answer, but to the embassy. But they did beat me bad. My legs, my arms, my body. I was bruised up real bad, and it felt like they broke a rib. I don't know if they ever did or if they just fractured it, and that was probably one of the worst beatings I got. You have no control in those countries.
And I mean, at that point, do you think you were going to die? Did you?
I actually had one of the guys that were Commander Vermelho. I had some friends at Commander Vermelho. They're a huge organization in Brazil. It's the biggest one probably there. And one of the guys was friends with a friend of mine that was a Commander Vermelho that was a trustee that was running through the gates. And his mother was a lawyer. And he was helped communicate for me for guys inside the pen and guys down, on the street. So I still was getting slight help. But it was very difficult at this point because they had me on such severe lockdown because they accused me of I don't know how many guys got killed in that last riot, but they accused me as being one of the instigators of that riot and setting it up.
And Gene, do you have? I mean,
like I said, Rikers Island, I seen probably 100 guys get cut. For incidents like that I've done in jail. I remember me and my friend Frankie Pasqua. He was at Staten Island, and we had this Italian guy come to the jail, and he was running his mouth about Gambino guys from my neighborhood, abusing them bad, familiar guys. And I had checked up on him, and they had told me the guy's no good. So I said, okay. I said, I'm gonna handle him. So his name was Sal Giolando. He's from the Bronx. He was playing a tough guy role. And me and my friend Frankie, we made a can top. We made the cutter. And he says, we're going to get him on the walkway. So we waited for him to go on the walkway. Long story short, I punch him in his face. My friend Frankie cuts his whole face open. We start beating him. We get away. Sure enough, the guy Sal Giolando, this big, crazy, tough guy, he goes right to the COs, says his own people did it to him. He goes and tells on us right away. I never forget this because my friend Frankie, you meet such great people in jail. And they put cuffs on both of us. You really do. You meet some good guys. And he looks at him. Frank goes, Gino. Everybody used to call me Gino in jail. He goes, Gino had nothing to do with it. I did it. And he actually went to the hole for me for 1 year. Lost 1 year of his good time for me because I had a 3 to 6. I had to do more time. He only had a 1 to 3. He actually took 1 year loss of good time for me, 1 year, and did an extra year for me, and did it in the hole. And that's what I'm saying. And that was like something we did really wild. We could have got extra charges. We got real lucky with it. And the guy Sal Giolando ended up telling on us that we cut him and beat him up and everything. And my friend Frankie took it away from me. That was one of the crazy things I've did in jail. I've been in dozens of fights. I've seen hundreds of people get cut. I never seen nobody actually get killed. In jail. But
Are there consequences for starting fights? I don't even know how it works.
Right. If you fight in a mess hall, that's called inciting a riot. You'll get 90 days in the hole automatically. If you fight in the yard, that's inciting a riot. If you use any kind of weapon, you go to the hole for a year. Lost a good time. See, in the state, you could get your good time back. They have a thing called TAC. It's called Time Allowance Committee, where if you get a weapons charge, you go in front of them. If you do ART, a program, they would say, okay, you did your program, we're going to give you 8 months back off the year we took. So you'll lose some good time, you know what I'm saying, but not all of it. So you get caught with drugs in jail, they'll make you do a thing called ASAP. You'll go do the ASAP program and say, all right, you've completed the program, so we're going to give you some of your time back. That's how it'll work. Now, if you do, like, technically, me and Frankie were supposed to get outside charges. We were. We just got lucky that we didn't. We were supposed to get them. He was supposed to get them. But for some reason, they just didn't charge it.
And what's the whole, like, for people that don't know what that is or what that...
It's horrible. I mean, like I said, I did whole time. The longest stint I ever did in the hole was 90 days straight, and that was horrible. You know what I mean?
How's that different? Like, what is the whole...
It's solitary confinement. You know, I had a bunkie. I was in New Orleans show, and you basically shower 3 times a week. I think we went over this before. You know, you get no... your yard is a dog kennel. You know what I mean? You have no phone, no commissary, really. You know, you have to stay in there for a long time just to get, like, little Snicker bars. You eat only 3 times a day. Your last time you eat's 4 o'clock. You don't eat again till the morning. You're starving. You know what I mean? So it's really rough, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that, you know, well, we're going to get into so much more down the line for the rest of the show, but, you know, always a pleasure to learn. And, you know, I mean, it's so interesting because for me and for so many other people, we don't know what these things are like, right? We don't have any of these experiences, so it's just interesting to hear firsthand accounts, really. And, you know, I think, again, trying to go back to that message of, you know, for people that are listening that either are violent or have those tendencies to really, you know, to hear these stories, right, is gonna hopefully dissuade them from pursuing this. And, you know, because maybe you might want to hurt someone one day, but then you hear no one wants to be in the hole, right?
Oh, man.
So you know, that's kind of the message. But you know, thank you guys again, obviously, for another episode. And we're gonna, you know, this is gonna be taking the show to a new level. I mean, you guys have been doing, and you guys will still probably do some of your video calls. I won't be on those for all those. I'll probably be here most of the time in the studio. We have a lot of great guests, but we'll have, you know, for people listening, we'll have the show on Apple's podcast app, Spotify, all that stuff, the YouTube channel that you're watching this on right now. Make sure you subscribe to that, and Crime Flick, you know, for all the bonus exclusive content. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff up there, and you know, it's you know, we're a couple episodes in of really studio time, but it's going to be a different level. So thank you guys again, and there's more to come.
Thank you. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, it feels good.
See you guys.